Hi, this is Brian Greger. I am a Power Platform Global Black Belt for Microsoft Corporation. And this demonstration is to illustrate how we can secure common data service data using role level security, row level security, and field level security, as well as how to secure these artifacts directly in CDS in addition to using an Azure AD security group. The first demonstration that we're going to do is utilizing users directly in CDS, and we have a couple of different roles configured. Alicia Tomber is going to be the administrator of the data that we're referencing, and the two common users that we're going to have are Alan Steiner and Ali Ballou. For the first demo, we're going to be utilizing a solution that we've created inside of an environment called Security Demo. Inside of this solution, we have the contact entity. We've added a model-driven application as well as a canvas application. And we've also created 3 security roles that we'll be utilizing. We have the security demo user, which will be assigned to standard users for our application. We have a security demo BU admin, which stands for business unit. We'll be talking in more detail about business units in the next section when we talk about organizational hierarchy. And we also have the security demo org admin, which is basically the top level administrator for the data in this application. Now let's take a look at the details for these security roles. Inside of the security demo user, as we click on that and go to core records, we'll see that we have under the contact entity, we have given privileges or permissions for several actions such as create, read, write, append, append to, assign, and share. And notice if you look at the legend on the bottom, it simply says the scope of this is for the user. What this means is that any user who's assigned this role will be allowed to do everything except delete, but only to records that they own. So a record that I've created, I own. A record that has been shared with me, I may own as well. So we can do everything here except delete our own records. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the next security role, the BU admin role. And the main change here is in the level of scope of permission as well as one actual permission, which is the delete. Again, if you look at the legend at the bottom, what the icon is showing us is that we have rights to our business unit and all children business units to our business unit. So we've also added the delete functionality. So this is more of an administrative function role that we can assign to users who might need access to multiple business units within. Again, we're not going to be dealing with business unit hierarchies in this first demo, but we will see that in the next one. So now let's jump over and take a look at the full org admin role, which, as you can imagine, it's simply one level higher as far as the scope is concerned. Take a look at the core records. On the contact entity, we have the complete organizational hierarchy with full privileges. So now what we need to do is take a look at the users themselves and how we're assigning these roles. So the first one here, Alan Steiner, if we select that and then click Manage Roles, we'll be able to see what roles Alan has been assigned. Initially, we have a single MinPriv Apps Use security role. Now this is a security role that I've created specifically for my environment, which gives Alan the rights needed to access the environment and to run applications that have been shared with him, but it doesn't give access to any specific data. We also have another security role assigned here, the security demo user, which will provide Alan with the rights necessary to not only access the application he'll be using, but to the data underneath that application. So now let's go ahead and jump over to Alicia Tomber. She'll be the admin in this particular demo. We select Alicia and go to Manage Roles, and you'll see something very similar. Alicia has the main Priv Apps Use role and the Security Demo BU admin to give her the administrative rights that she needs for this application. So now that we've seen their users and the roles that they're assigned to, let's jump into the application itself. So this is a browser where I'm signed in as Alan Steiner. You can see the full name owner field over on the right hand side showing who the owner of these records are, and these are the records that I have access to. And let's say we go ahead and create a new record. I'm going to create one here for Bobby Doe. We'll give him, Bobby first name, Doe last name, email address, the business phone number, the mobile phone number. Now when I hit save here, we're going to get a duplicate record detection. And what this is a feature of the CDS service that we have available, which can detect potential duplicate records in your system. Since the business phone and the mobile phone match other records that exist, we want to make sure that you're aware this might be a duplicate record. We know it's not, so we'll just go ahead and ignore and save it. And once we've saved this record, if we go back to the list of records that we have available to us, we'll be able to see now that Bobby is in that list and we can see it. Now, one of the other things that we were paying attention to in our security roles is that we don't have access to delete a record. So just to prove that, if we go ahead and click the record to select it, you'll notice that we do not have delete anywhere on the menu item. And that's where preventing users from deleting records that they have created, which gives us the functionality that we were looking for. So now let's bring up another browser. And this one is Alicia Tomber. You'll notice if you click on the profile icon in the top right, it tells you who is signed into this particular browser. And you can see that she has access to all of the records regardless of who the owner is. We have records for Ali, records for Alicia, records for Alan, all of the different users of the system. And let's say we refresh, we can go ahead and see that new record that Alan had created called Bobby Doe. And also notice now that when I select the record, I do have a delete option up in the menu bar, which will allow me to delete records if I need to. So that's a very quick and dirty users with security roles, how you can configure the security roles to give you the functionality that you're looking for and prevent other functionality that you don't want users to have access to. So now we'll move on to the next session. Okay, the previous demonstration simply showed a very flat hierarchy. We had a couple of common users and we had one admin user who could access all of the records, and the common users could only access their own records. CDS provides an extra layer of functionality for hierarchical business units. When you define a business unit, you can create a parent-child relationship between them. In the demonstration that we're going to do on the next set, I've implemented hierarchical business units such as what you see on the screen. The very top level is Contoso, and we have a top-level organizational administrative role for that one. That is the Security Demo Org Admin. Then we have two child business units of Contoso. We have Southeast Business Unit and we have Northeast Business Unit. Inside of Southeast Business Unit, we'll have Alicia Tomber, who is assigned the Security Demo BU Admin. Underneath Southeast, we have Florida and Georgia. Assigned to Florida is Alan Steiner, who simply has the Security Demo User Security role, and he will only be allowed to affect his own records again, just like in the previous demo. But now we've added Ali Ballou over in the Connecticut Business Unit, which is a child of Northeast Business Unit, again a child of Contoso. The point of bringing Ali and her records into this are that the purpose showing that Alicia, because her security role is strict based on business unit, she will only be able to see the records in the Southeast. She won't be able to see Ali's records over in the Northeast Business Unit in the Connecticut sub-unit. Okay, for the second demo, the one dealing with business units, we're going to use the same solution package that we have with the same artifacts. We also have the exact same security roles defined, the business unit and org admins, as well as the demo user. And just to refresh our memories, in the business unit admin, we have a security role defined where privileges on the contact entity are set up so that you can see your business unit and any child business unit records if you've been assigned to the business unit admin security role. So the business unit piece itself is on a different section of the administration console. You'll notice we have a top level business unit called BG Security. That's a little bit of a mistake on my part. It should have been Contoso, but I had already gotten started on this. Then underneath BG Security, you'll see that we have several other parent-child relationships. We have Northeast and Southeast that have been set up as children of BG Security. Then we also have children of Northeast and Southeast, Georgia, Florida, and Connecticut. Now this defines the business unit hierarchical structure. So in order to make use of that hierarchical structure, we have to assign users to those particular business units. Now you'll notice here, Alan is assigned to Florida, Alicia is assigned to the Southeast, and Ali is assigned to Connecticut. The other piece that makes this work is the security roles. And this is no different than what we had in the previous demonstration. Alan is assigned to the two security roles, minimum privilege use and the security demo user. And we'll go ahead and take a look then at Alicia. And she also is assigned to the same roles from the previous demo, minimum priv and security demo BU admin. And so now let's go ahead and jump over to the experience. And here you see we have Alan Steiner's browser. He's looking at only the records that he has access to. We jump over to Alicia's browser, and you can see that Alicia only sees Alan and her own records here. In the previous demo, she was also able to see Allie's records because we didn't have the business unit hierarchy. So Alicia is going to go ahead, we're jumping back over to Allie's browser at this point. You can see who's logged in here and see that she can only see her own records as well. So Allie's going to create a new record. We'll go ahead and call this Mary Doe because I am crazy creative coming up with different names. I'm going to have the entire Doe family in my company here. Go ahead and give the email address, the business phone, the mobile phone. Again, we should get the duplicate identity detection. That's fine. We'll move on, take a look. We can now see Mary under Allie's browser. And if we jump back over to Alicia's and refresh, we still do not see Mary Doe, again, because they are in different business units. So that's how you can use those security roles associated with business units in order to give the hierarchical view of the data for different departments, regions of the country, whatever sections you might need to divide your company or your business data into. So this next piece of the demo is actually regarding field level security. What that means is I might have access to a record, but there might be sensitive data such as birth dates, emails, salary, and maybe I want to secure the information that's in those particular fields of a record. So what we can do is we can actually define that, for instance, on the mobile phone, a user is allowed to read and create the mobile phone number, but is not allowed to update it. Or under the email address, for instance, I'm allowed to create a record and create the data in that field, but once I've created it, I'm not allowed to read it or update it. There could be a variety of reasons why you might need this level of security, but just to show how it's demonstrated, we've taken a fairly simplistic example, and we'll show you that here in the next demo. Okay, for the field level security demo, we're going to be utilizing the same solution that we've used so far. We have the contact entity and our 3 security roles. In order to enable field level security, you have to go into the entity, discover the fields that you would like to enable this enhanced security on, go into each of the fields, and under advanced options, you'll see a setting for enable field security. So we've already enabled this for the email field and also for the mobile phone field. Now you do have to be a little careful because once you enable those fields, it is enabled for everyone so that unless they are part of a special field level security profile, they will not have access to that particular data. If we take a look at Allie's browser right now, you can see that she no longer has access to mobile phone data or email data. And if you go into the particular form, you can see the special indicator here of a padlock on the 2 fields where field level security has been enabled. And she can no longer click into these fields to edit them. She cannot read the data on these fields either. So what do we need to do to enable people to be able to have enhanced access to these fields once it's enabled? So there's a special section in our security administration that allows you to create a field level security profile. In order to get to that particular administration interface from the Maker portal where we are here, if you click on the gear and then go down to advanced settings, this will redirect you into what used to be the Dynamics administration interface for the instance that you're running on. You click on the down arrow beside settings, and then this will give you a list of different settings such as security under system. Now this particular interface, as of the time of this recording, is separated into 2 admin interfaces, but it will eventually be merged into the Power Platform Administration Center. Once you're into the security area of the system settings, you can see that we have field security profiles. So we click on field security profile, and this will show you that we created 2 special field security profiles. The system administrator is provided out of the box. It's a default field security profile. And then we have an admin access to email and mobile phone, and we have a user access to email and mobile phone. So let's take a look at each one of these in turn to see what we've done. We open the admin access and take a look at the users for this particular profile. and we'll see that we have Alicia Tomber here. If you remember, she is our administrative user in the scenarios that we're dealing with during these demos. So now that Alicia is assigned to this field security profile, we take a look at the field permissions that we've set up, and under email address, we have yes to read, update, and create, and under mobile phone, we have yes to read, update, and create, which basically allows Alicia to have full access to both of the fields that have field level security defined. So now let's go take a look at the user level access that we've created, this field level security profile. In the users, we currently have Alan Steiner assigned. If you remember when we looked at Allie's browser, she couldn't see anything because she didn't have the extra access. If we go take a look at the field permissions, we have for email address that it can be created but cannot be read or updated. For mobile phone, it can be created and read but not updated. So this will allow us to have a little bit of an enhanced security profile for these two particular fields of data within our records. So now let's jump over to what the experience is. We're in Alan Steiner's browser at this point. You can see that he cannot read the email addresses. And under mobile phones, the ones that aren't there are simply sample data where they don't have a mobile phone listed, but you can see that he has mobile phone on the two that he has created. So now let's go ahead and take a look into one of the records. You can see here that mobile phone is there. We can read it, but we're not allowed to edit it. And again, the padlock is an indication of the field level security. However, with the email address, we cannot read it after we have created it. So now let's go into the creation experience. We'll create a new user called Marty Doe, and entering in the email address. Note it was asterisks initially. Once I tab away, it is now asterisks again because I'm not allowed to read it. We'll put in the mobile phone, same one that we normally do. So we've saved the record. We go take a look at the list. We can now see that Marty, we can't read the email address. The business phone isn't there because I just didn't create it. And then the mobile phone we can read just like we have been able to. Now, if we decide to go back in here just to make it more consistent, I'll go ahead and add the business phone back to this record. And now we get the duplicate detection, which is fine, as we've talked about in the previous ones. So now we have the 3 Doe records that we cannot read the email addresses, but we were able to create. And now we'll refresh Alicia's browser, and we can see that Alicia actually has full access to both fields of data that we were referencing, the email and the mobile phone. And if we navigate into, we can actually modify these. And again, the security icon is a key, meaning that they're open for edit for this particular user. Okay, what I've shown you in the previous demonstrations are all well and good if you have a small number of users to manage, or if it's a small team that you're dealing with. But let's say you have hundreds or even thousands of users that you need to be able to grant access to an application in CDS entities. You're not going to want to do that user by user. You're going to want to do that based on security groups, and most likely Azure AD security groups that they already exist within or that they already belong to. So the diagram that you see on the screen is simply a high-level diagram of what the associations are. We have Azure Active Directory that has an Azure Active Directory security group. You've got a user who belongs to that security group. You assign or associate the security group with a team inside of CDS. You assign a security role to that team, and that security role grants privileges to the entity inside of CDS that you're accessing. So it actually, might sound a little complex, but let's walk through it, show you what the steps are to make it happen, and then we'll hopefully be able to get you on your way. Okay, for the Azure Active Directory Security Group demo, we'll be using the same solution that we had previously, the contact entity. We do have a model-driven application that will be accessed, and we have our standard security roles that we used in the previous demos. So in the Active Directory portal, we can see that we have a security group called Contoso Contacts Users. As members of that are Ali and Alan, just like previously. And then I want to point out the object ID. This is extremely important whenever you're associating security groups with CDS teams. You will need that ID to make the association to the CDS team. So now let's jump back and take a look. We also have another group, the Contoso Contacts Admins. Inside of the Contoso Contacts Admins, we have one member, Alicia. So again, remember, we have some consistency across our demos. Alicia is the administrative figure, whereas Alan and Ali are users of the system, and they have a little more restrictions on what data they can access. So if we go take a look at the users, again, just to show that there's no magic under the covers, Alan, his security roles that he's currently assigned is simply the min-priv apps use, does not have the security demo user role. Alicia will be the same, the min-priv apps use, but not the security demo BU admin. And then finally, Ali Baloo, min-priv apps use only and not security demo user. So they aren't getting their rights through any other mechanism other than the security group that they're a member of. So now if we go take a look at our CDS teams that we've created, we have one called contact users, and you'll notice currently there's only one user listed here, Alan, which if you recall in our security group, we actually have two members. We have Alan and Ali. So there's a reason you're only seeing Alan at this point, and that's because Alan has already accessed the application after being granted access. We do a just-in-time permission access so that as soon as Ali hits the system, she will then be added to this list of members for the team. But until she does, she won't show up here. So you can see here that he still has his business unit. And if we take a look at the managed roles for the team, you can see the security demo user role has been assigned to this team. So he'll have the same rights that he had previously under his business unit access. Now we created two teams, of course, one for each of the security groups. And again, there's no members here because Alicia has not accessed the system. Take a look at the security roles for this team, and it's the BU admin, which is what we were giving Alicia previously. So here you can see the name. There we can see that the team type is AAD security group, and then the Azure AD object ID for group. Now, what you'll notice as you go to create the team is that depending on what you select for team type, the Azure AD object ID for group might change or it might be disabled because that's completely dependent on the type of team. So once you select AAD security group, then you can put in the Azure object ID to associate it with that security group. So let's take a look real quick. Here's Alan. He's already had access to the application. You can see he's only seeing his own records. He can go into the records, see the data, and manipulate around, go through the different records that he needs to see. So now in order to grant access to Ali, for instance, we need to take a look at the sitemap for the model-driven app that we have created. And you'll take a look at the Properties tab here. Down on the bottom right, you'll see this Unified Interface URL. That URL is the application for the model-driven app. And you'll want to be able to pass that around to somebody, to any new users, so that they can then access the application. So we're going to launch a new browser here for Ali. And we'll paste that in. And we get an error. So this is a temporary transient error. I shouldn't call it transient. It is a temporary error at the time of this recording. What I've done here should actually work, and we're researching why this is failing at this point in time. So there is another way that you actually have to grant a user access to the system, and we will show that here. So if you remove the URL away from just the environment and the domain, so in my case, bgsecurity.crm.dynamics.com, as a user, if I go ahead and hit that, then that actually gives me access to the application that I have rights to. You'll see that I'm seeing the records that I have access to. And now if I go back and take a look at the team, you'll see that Ali is now a member of the team, as she should be. So again, using the URL for the application should work, but there's a small problem that we're researching to try to find out why that's not working today. So now if we go over and take a look at Alicia, go ahead and do the same thing for Alicia, access the environment URL. Then it opens up the application for us. We can see the contacts, and you're seeing all of the contacts that she should see as well. And she is now a member of the team in order to be able to access the content. So that was how you associate an Azure Active Directory security group with a CDS team managed by security roles to grant access to your users to the data within CDS. Okay, a few parting thoughts as we're ending up this demonstration. There are currently a couple of admin centers, right? We have admin.powerapps.com. We also have admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com. And then there's also the Dynamics 365 administration interface. Those are all being merged into a single admin center, and it's happening in the June to July of 2020 timeframe. So by the time you hear this, it may have already happened. The Unified Administration Center will be the admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com. Another thing to note is there is a slightly different app sharing experience for now. Inside of a Canvas app, when you share it, it has an option to send an email invitation with a link to the users. With a model app, you do not get that email invitation, and you must manually announce or send the URL to the application to your users. I am considering a couple of future demonstrations to discuss the multiple types of CDS teams. We only talked about the Azure Active Directory team today. There are three other types of teams that can be discussed. And then there's a feature inside of the security role about the member's privilege inheritance, which also plays a part in how privileges are assigned to the user whenever they're a member of a team. And that bears a little deeper dive as well. So we'll try to get those out on the books soon. So a quick jump over to the last slide. Okay, just to show a couple of the items from our parting thoughts slide previously, we'll take a look at the existing solution that we have, security demo. We're inside the Power Apps Maker portal. If we jump over to the Power Platform Admin Center, which is the new Unified Interface Center, you'll see we're in our security demo environment. Under users and permissions, we have several options here, but what we're missing here is field level profiles for our field level security. Now, that is planned to be integrated into this new administration center eventually. Probably will be by the time you listen to this recording. One of the other features that seems to be missing is if you go into Teams, you don't have any way to assign security roles. Notice Manage Roles doesn't show up. If you navigate into the team itself, the Manage Roles does not exist here either. So this is one of the gaps yet for the unified interface. If I go to the Dynamics interface under Security, I'll show you how to get here in just a second. We go into the Teams link and select the team itself. You don't have managed roles, but if you go into the team, then you see the manage role link in order to assign security roles to the team. So again, just one of the small gaps, one of the few gaps that we still have between the older interfaces and the newer interface. Now, how do I get here, you might say? So the easiest way that I find to get here is actually from the Maker portal. So notice here, I'm at make.powerapps.com. I'm inside my environment security demo. If I go over to the top right where the settings gear, then go down to advanced settings. If I click on advanced settings, then that takes me back to the Dynamics 365 interface for this particular environment. So you'll notice the URL, VG Security, hit the drop down by settings and go into security from there, and you can actually see the previous interface. And again, that's going to be integrated soon. It might even be by the time you see this. So some of the other things that I wanted to show and talk about is the sharing experience difference. Click on the ellipse and go to share for a Canvas application. You'll notice the option at the bottom to send an email invitation to new users. So as you share to new users, it will send an email to them with a link to the application. So if we go in here, we can see we can either enter email addresses of users, or you can enter Azure AD security groups. So we can specify contact or Contoso contacts users, and over on the right-hand side, you'll see that the contacts entity is available, and we can assign what security roles we want the users in this particular group to have. So in our case, Contoso contacts users is going to get the security demo user role. Contoso contacts admins is going to get the BU admin role. So we go ahead and share that. And then just to show the experience for send an email link, that's down there at the bottom. And then to flip over to the experience for the model-driven app, we'll go ahead and click the ellipse, click share, and then you'll get this sharing, which looks very similar. There are a couple of key differences. When you click on Contoso Contacts, the application, you're asked which security roles should we use, should we make available when things are being shared. So you'll see the 3 custom ones that we created. Then you can type in a particular user or security group. So we'll put in Jamie Redding. He's actually already down there, but just to show you the sharing experience, you click on that, select him up in the new, and then you can define what security roles Jamie should have access to this application as well. Now the thing about the model-driven app, like we talked about, there's no email invitation sent, so you would need to get the URL for the app to send it out to the users so that they know how to get access to the application. And of course, those are the security roles that we created. So now, the other item on the parting thoughts was about teams and the different types of teams. So let's say, for instance, we go in here and we want to create a new team. You can define what business unit it's owned by. You can define the administrator for this particular team. So we'll go ahead and I'll select myself for that. Now this is the key part, is the team type. So notice we have owner, access, AAD security group, AAD office group. Security group and office group are very similar. You simply supply the object ID for the group in Azure that you want to associate with this team. Owner and access groups are a little bit different functionally. So like I said, we may dive into those a little bit later at some point in order to show what the differences are for those. One other thing that we talked about on the parting thoughts is about the inheritance piece on a security role. So you'll see here that we have team privileges only as well as direct user access. And again, we'll get deeper into that on a different video. But in order to make this work for the Azure AD security groups, you needed to select the direct user basic access level and team privileges in order to make that work for the scenario that we were using. So I hope this has helped. I hope it explains a little bit about how to set up security for the data inside of CDS, and happy power platforming.